Hana pressed her hand against the cold metal wall and watched the stars through the observation window. She had been alone for 8 months now. 8 months since the Chromath came. 8 months since everyone she knew died. The research station was silent except for the hum of life support systems. Once, 30 Valorian scientists worked here, studying distant nebulas and recording history. Now only Hana remained, hiding in the darkness of space like a mouse hiding from wolves. She walked to the control panel and checked the long-range scanners again. It was a habit now, something she did every hour. The screen showed the same terrible truth. The Chromath Empire was growing. Red markers spread across the star map like a disease. Every red marker meant another world conquered. Another species destroyed or enslaved. Hana's people, the Valorians, had been peaceful. They collected knowledge and wrote histories. They had libraries that held 10,000 years of galactic records. They had no weapons, no armies. When the Chromath arrived, the Valorians tried to talk. They tried to reason. They tried to surrender. The Chromath did not care. Hana remembered that day with painful clarity. She had been on the station preparing to return home. Then the emergency broadcast started. She watched on the screens as Chromath warriors fell from the sky. They looked like living crystals, their bodies reflecting light in sharp, cold colors. Energy weapons did nothing to them. The Chromath walked through plasma fire like it was rain. In 6 hours, her homeworld went silent. Hana had screamed until her voice broke. She had cried until no more tears came. Then she shut down the station's beacon and hid. What else could she do? She was a historian, not a soldier. She knew how to preserve books, not how to fire guns. But hiding meant watching. And watching meant seeing the Chromath destroy everything. The Galactic Council sent their fleet. 500 warships with the best technology in known space. Hana watched that battle too. The Chromath tore through them in 2 days. The Council fell apart after that. Now every species fought alone and every species lost. Hana walked to her small quarters and sat at her desk. She kept a journal, writing down everything she saw. It was what Valorians did. They recorded truth so others could learn from it. Even if no one would ever read her words, she wrote them anyway. Today's entry was short. Day 247 detected 3 more distress signals. All went silent within hours. The Chromath are moving toward the core worlds now. I estimate they control 40% of known space. No species has successfully resisted them. She closed the journal and looked at the small hologram projector beside it. With a touch, it activated. 3 faces appeared, smiling. Her father, her mother, her younger brother. Before the station's systems failed completely, Hana had programmed the AI with their personalities. It was not really them, but it was all she had left. Hello, Hana, the AI said in her mother's voice. You look tired. Did you eat today? Yes, Hana lied. Food was running low. She had maybe 3 months of supplies left if she was careful. You should rest, her father's image said. Watching those scanners all day helps no one. Hana almost laughed. What else should I do? Read to exercise? Pretend everything is normal? The AI was silent for a moment. Then her brother's image smiled sadly. We know you are scared. We know you are alone. But you are still alive, Hana. That means something. Does it? Hana whispered. Everyone is dying and I am hiding in the dark. What good is being alive if I cannot help anyone? The AI had no answer for that. Hana turned off the projector and went back to the control room. The distress beacon sat dormant in the system controls. She had turned it off months ago. At first, she hoped someone would come. Maybe a rescue ship. Maybe other survivors. But no one came, and keeping the beacon active was dangerous. It could draw the Chromath to her. Better to die alone than to die screaming. Hana sat in the pilot chair and stared at the scanner screen. She watched the Chromath markers move across the map. They were methodical, efficient. They swept through each sector completely before moving to the next. No one escaped. Hours passed. Hana's eyes grew heavy. She was about to go sleep when the scanner made a sound she had never heard before. Alert. Alert. Unknown contact. Hana sat up straight, her heart racing. She checked the screen. Something was there at the edge of sensor range, but it made no sense. The reading showed a ship moving at impossible speeds. Physics said nothing could move that fast without tearing itself apart. She refined the sensor focus. The contact appeared for 3 seconds, clear and bright. Then it vanished completely. Not destroyed, not hiding, just gone like it had never existed. Hana's hand shook as she traced the trajectory. The ship, whatever it was, had been heading toward Chromath space. Toward the enemy. She sat back in her chair, breathing hard. Someone was out there. Someone with technology she did not understand. Someone who was not running away from the Chromath but toward them. For the first time in 8 months, Hana felt something other than despair. She felt curiosity. She felt hope. Before she could stop herself, before fear could change her mind, Hana reached for the beacon controls. Her finger hovered over the activation button. This was stupid. This was dangerous. The beacon could draw the Chromath. It could end her life. But maybe, just maybe, it could draw someone else instead. Hana pressed the button. The beacon activated, sending out its signal at full power. She aimed it toward the coordinates where the impossible ship had vanished. "I am Hana of Valoria," she transmitted. "I am alone. I need help. If anyone can hear this, please respond, please." The message repeated automatically, broadcasting into the void. Hana sat in the darkness and waited. She did not know if anyone would come. She did not know if she would survive the next day. But for the first time since her world burned, she had done something other than hide. Outside the window, the stars remained silent and cold. But somewhere in that darkness, something impossible was moving through space, and Hana had just told it where to find her. 3 days passed like 3 years. Hana barely slept. She watched the scanners constantly, jumping at every flicker, every ghost signal. The beacon transmitted her message over and over into the silence of space. Nothing answered. On the morning of the 4th day, Hana was drinking recycled water when reality broke. The space outside her station tore open. There was no other word for it. A hole appeared in the darkness, burning with light, and something massive pushed through. A ship emerged. Not sleek like Valorian vessels or crystalline like Chromath warships. This ship looked brutal. It was gray and angular, covered in armor plates and weapon batteries. Scorch marks streaked its hull. This was a ship built for war. Hana's console exploded with warning lights. The ship was scanning her station with targeting systems. Every weapon on that vessel was pointed at her. A voice came through the communication system, speaking in Galactic Standard with a strange accent. "Unknown station, identify yourself immediately. You have 10 seconds to comply." Hana's fingers fumbled on the controls. "This is Research Station Valoria 7. I am Hana, civilian scientist. I am alone and unarmed. Please do not fire." Silence stretched for 5 seconds, 10, 20. Then the voice came back, calmer now. "Hana of Valoria, this is Captain Tay of the United Earth Navy ship Indomitable. Stand by for boarding. Do not resist and you will not be harmed." Hana's mind went blank. Earth? But that's impossible. Earth was destroyed. The Vorlich swarm consumed your world 200 years ago. The records say all humans died. A sound came through the speaker that might have been laughter. The records were wrong. Prepare for boarding party arrival. Hana watched through the window as a small shuttle detached from the warship. It crossed the distance quickly and locked onto her station's docking port. She heard the clang of metal connecting, the hiss of pressure seals engaging. The airlock door opened. 5 figures stepped through, wearing black armor covered with equipment she did not recognize. They moved with smooth precision, checking corners and covering each other like they expected an attack. The leader removed her helmet. She was human. Her face was scarred, her eyes sharp and calculating. She carried a weapon that looked heavy and mechanical, nothing like the elegant energy rifles other species used. "I am Commander Jin. Are you alone here?" Hana nodded, unable to speak. Jin gestured to her team. "Secure the station. Check for hostiles and traps." She turned back to Hana. "When did the Chromath hit your world?" 8 months ago, Hana whispered. Something softened in Jin's expression. "I am sorry. We have seen too many worlds like yours." She touched her ear, activating a communication device. "Station is clear, Captain. 1 survivor, Valorian female, no threat. Requesting full boarding team." More humans arrived. Engineers who immediately began examining the station's systems. A medic who insisted on scanning Hana even though she said she was fine. An intelligence officer named Mina, who asked her hundreds of questions about the Chromath. Finally, Captain Tay himself came aboard. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of hard years. He looked at Hana like he was seeing something familiar and sad. "You sent out a distress call," he said simply. "Yes. I saw your ship on my scanners. I did not know what else to do, Tay nodded. You did the right thing. Do you have information about Chromath movements? Hana led him to her control room and showed him everything. 8 months of carefully recorded data. Chromath fleet positions, attack patterns, supply routes. Everything she had watched from her hiding place. Tay studied the data with fierce attention. He called in other officers. They spoke in rapid technical language, pointing at the screens and making notes. This is incredible, Mina said. This intelligence is better than anything we have gathered. You have been tracking them this whole time? I am a historian, Hana said quietly. I record what I see. Even if no one would read it, I had to write it down. Someone is reading it now, Tay said. This data could help us hurt them. Really hurt them. Hana stared at him. Hurt them? Captain, the Chromath have conquered half the galaxy. The Council fleet could not stop them. Their armor is immune to energy weapons. How can you possibly fight them? Tay smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of something dangerous. Come with me. I will show you. He led her to the shuttle, and they flew to the Indomitable. Hana had been on many ships, but never one like this. Everything was thick metal and harsh lights. The crew moved with purpose, calling out reports and orders. It felt alive in a way that made her nervous. Tay brought her to the weapons deck. This is what we use, he said, gesturing to massive cannons. Railguns. They fire solid metal slugs using electromagnetic acceleration. No plasma, no energy beams. Just metal moving very, very fast. A young man approached and saluted. Captain, this is Pilot Yuna. She flies our strike fighters. Yuna grinned. Want to see what we do to Chromath shields? Before Hana could answer, Yuna pulled up a video on a display screen. It showed a human fighter attacking a Chromath cruiser. The Chromath ship's shields flashed blue as it deflected energy weapons from other vessels. Then the human fighter fired. Metal projectiles punched through the shields like they were not there, smashing into the crystalline hull. The Chromath ship shattered. Energy shields do not stop kinetic weapons, Yuna explained, and their crystal armor is strong against heat but weak against impact. We hit them with enough force, they break just fine. Hana felt dizzy. Why doesn't everyone use these weapons? Because they are primitive, an older man said, approaching them. I am Chief Engineer Siak. Most species developed energy weapons centuries ago. They think kinetic projectiles are crude and outdated. They forgot that simple things often work best. Tay nodded. After Earth fell, we had nothing. No advanced technology. No powerful allies. We were refugees hiding in the dark. So we built ships using whatever we could find. Old human weapons from our history. Nuclear missiles. Armor-piercing rounds. Chemical explosives. Everything the galaxy abandoned, we perfected. We also learned something important, Jin added. The galaxy has rules for war, honor, mercy, fair combat. The Chromath do not follow those rules, so we stopped following them too. Mina touched Hana's shoulder gently. We know what the Chromath did to your people. We have seen it happen to dozens of species. We cannot bring them back. But we can make the Chromath pay for what they have done. Hana looked around at these humans. They were not like any species she had studied. They were hard and scarred and angry. But they were also here in Chromath space, planning to fight. What do you want from me? She asked. Help us, Tay said. Your intelligence on Chromath movements is priceless. With your data, we can hit their supply lines, destroy their support ships, make them bleed. We are going to show this galaxy that the Chromath are not unstoppable. Hana thought about her empty station, her dead world, 8 months of hiding and fear. She looked at the weapons around her, at these strange humans who came to fight when everyone else ran away. What do I need to do? She asked. Tay smiled again, and this time it was warm. Stay alive. Help us understand the enemy, and watch what happens when humans get angry. Outside the ship, space was cold and dark, but inside the Indomitable, surrounded by warriors from a species that refused to die, Hana felt something she had not felt in 8 months. She felt hope. The Kelver system hung in space like a jewel, quiet and cold. 3 Chromath supply ships orbited the 4th planet, loading resources stripped from conquered worlds. They had no reason to expect trouble. No species dared attack the Chromath anymore. Hana stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display. Her hands gripped the console edge so hard her knuckles turned white. In minutes, she would see if the humans could really do what they promised. All ships report ready, the communications officer called out. Captain Tay stood at the center of the bridge, calm and focused. Launch fighters. Begin attack run. The Indomitable shuddered as fighter craft launched from its bay. On the screen, Hana watched 30 small ships race toward the Chromath position. They moved fast, darting and weaving in patterns that looked random but were carefully planned. The Chromath detected them immediately. Energy weapons lit up space, bright blue beams trying to track the human fighters. But the fighters were too small, too fast. They slipped through the defensive fire like water through fingers. Now, Tay said quietly. The human warships dropped out of warp, appearing suddenly at the edge of weapons range. The Chromath ships began to turn, their shields activating with a shimmer of light. Their armor caught the system's sun and reflected it in cold, beautiful colors. Fire, Tay commanded. Hana felt the ship shake as the railguns fired. Magnetic coils accelerated metal slugs to impossible speeds. No light beams. No plasma bursts. Just solid metal moving so fast it became a weapon that nothing could stop. The first volley hit a Chromath supply ship. The shields flashed once, then failed. The slugs punched through the crystalline hull like it was glass. Atmosphere vented into space. Secondary explosions rippled along the ship's length. Target destroyed, the weapons officer Wu reported. Reloading, the second Chromath ship tried to run. Its engines flared bright as it attempted to escape. Yuna's fighter squadron cut off its path, firing missiles that tracked the ship's heat signature. The Chromath vessel's point defense system shot down most of the missiles. Most, but not all. 3 missiles hit. Nuclear warheads detonated against the hull. The flash was so bright Hana had to look away. When she looked back, the Chromath ship was tumbling, half its structure gone. The third ship fought back. It targeted the Indomitable with heavy weapons. Energy beams hammered against the human ship's armor. Alarms wailed. Crew members shouted damage reports. Hull breach on deck 7, someone called out. Sealing emergency doors, Seok's voice came through the intercom from engineering. Armor is holding. They cannot penetrate deep enough to reach critical systems. Tay did not look worried. Close to optimal firing range. Prepare nuclear torpedoes. Hana had learned about these weapons. Missiles with nuclear warheads, primitive by galactic standards but devastating in practice. The galaxy had banned such weapons centuries ago. Humans apparently did not care about the ban. 6 torpedoes launched. The Chromath ship's defensive systems destroyed 4. 2 got through. The explosions were silent in space, but Hana felt them in her chest. When the light faded, debris was all that remained of the Chromath ship. All targets destroyed, Wu confirmed. Battle duration, 14 minutes. The bridge crew cheered. Jin clapped Tay on the shoulder. Even the serious Mina was smiling. Hana just stood there, shocked. The Chromath had seemed unstoppable. She had watched them destroy fleets. But the humans had just won in 14 minutes. Retrieve our fighters and prepare jump coordinates, Tay ordered. We need to leave before Chromath reinforcements arrive. The fleet regrouped quickly and vanished into warp space. They had won, but Hana noticed the damage. Scorch marks on the Indomitable's hull, the wounded being carried to medical. 2 fighters had not returned. In the medical bay, Hana found a human named Nari bandaging a pilot's arm. Nari had kind eyes despite the war happening around her. First battle? Nari asked, noticing Hana's expression. I have never seen combat before, Hana admitted. My people did not fight. We studied and recorded. Violence was something we read about in old histories. Nari nodded, finishing the bandage. My grandmother was a teacher. She said the same thing. She hated violence. But when soldiers came to her town, she picked up a weapon and fought anyway. Sometimes the universe does not care what we prefer. Does it get easier? Anna asked. No, Nari said honestly, but you learn to carry it, and you remember why you fight. Over the next weeks, news of the battle spread. Species across the galaxy received transmissions showing human ships destroying Chromath vessels. The reactions were mixed. Some species were horrified. They called human weapons barbaric and cruel. They said humans were as bad as the Chromath using such primitive violence. But others saw something different. They saw hope. A delegation arrived from the Talviks, a species of silicon-based engineers. They had been hiding since the Chromath destroyed their colonies. Their representative, a being that looked like living rock, met with Tai. We can help you build ammunition, the Talviks said. Our people worked with metals and manufacturing. We have facilities the Chromath have not found yet. Tai accepted immediately. We need all the help we can get. More species began to appear. The Quinn, who could navigate through dangerous space using senses humans did not have. They offered to serve as scouts. Small groups of survivors from a dozen worlds emerged from hiding, asking to join the fight. Hana watched a new alliance form around the human fleet. They called it the Phoenix Coalition, named after an Earth legend about a bird that rose from ashes. It felt appropriate, but not everyone was grateful. Hana heard arguments on the ship. Some alien crew members questioned human methods. They did not like nuclear weapons. They thought kinetic bombardment was too brutal. Jin addressed these concerns directly. You think we are savage? Good. The Chromath should think so too. They have spent centuries preparing for honorable enemies with clean weapons. We are not honorable. We do whatever works. Mina took a different approach when talking to Hana. They had become friends, bonding over their shared losses. We do not enjoy violence, Mina explained. But we learned a hard lesson. Being peaceful only works if the other side respects peace. The Chromath do not, so we fight with everything we have. Hana began to understand. The humans were not naturally violent. They were survivors who had learned to bite back. She spent her time working with Mina, using Valorian archives to predict Chromath movements. Together they identified supply routes and weak points. The coalition struck again and again, hitting targets the Chromath thought were safe. But victory brought consequences. The Chromath started to take the humans seriously. Intelligence reports showed enemy fleets being redirected. The Chromath High Command was studying the attacks, looking for patterns. One night, Hana found Tay standing alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. We are winning small battles, he said without looking at her. But the war is just starting. The Chromath have hundreds of fleets. We have 20 ships. Eventually they will come for us with everything they have. What will you do then? Hana asked. Tay smiled tiredly. The same thing we always do. Fight anyway. That is what humans do, Hana. We fight impossible battles. Sometimes we even win. Hana looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Chromath Empire was moving. A vast machine of conquest that had crushed every species in its path. But now it faced something it had never encountered before. It faced humans who refused to die quietly. And standing beside those humans, Hana no longer felt alone. The war room fell silent when the intelligence report came through. Mina read the data twice before speaking. The Chromath primary armada is moving, she announced. 300 capital ships under war Primus Krelthar. They are coming directly for us. Hana felt cold fear settle in her stomach. 300 ships. The Phoenix Coalition had maybe 20 functional warships. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The allied species began to panic. Representatives from the Talvix, Quinn, and other species crowded into the command center, all speaking at once. We cannot fight that many ships. We should scatter. Hide again. This alliance was a mistake. Only the humans remained calm. Tay stood at the center of the chaos and raised his hand. The room gradually quieted. Running will not save you, he said firmly. The Chromath know about the coalition now. They will hunt down every species that helped us. There is no going back to hiding. We fight here or we die slowly somewhere else. But 300 ships, a Quinn navigator said desperately. How can we possibly win? By making them fight on our terms, Tay replied. He activated a star map. A nebula appeared, glowing with radiation and cosmic dust. The Vantis Nebula. Radiation there disrupts sensors and shields. Standard fleet tactics become useless, Jin stepped forward. We lure them in. Fight close range where our kinetic weapons have the advantage. Use the nebula's asteroids and gas clouds for cover. You want to use ourselves as bait, the Talvix representative said. Yes, Tay said simply. It is risky. Many of us will die, but it gives us a chance. The alien representatives looked at each other, fear and doubt clear on their faces. Hana understood their fear. She felt it too, but she also knew Tay was right. Running would only delay the end. I found something, Hana said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. In the Valorian archives. Historical records from 10,000 years ago. The Chromath existed then, but they were nearly destroyed. Another species fought them using weapons similar to what humans use now. Kinetic projectiles. Explosive warheads. The Chromath survived, but they never forgot that war. Their entire military doctrine evolved to counter energy weapons, because that is what defeated them after they learned to defend against kinetic attacks. Mina caught on immediately. So when humanity returned with kinetic weapons, the Chromath were not prepared. Their defenses are optimized for the wrong threat. Exactly, Hana said. The galaxy spent centuries perfecting energy weapons. The Chromath spent centuries learning to counter them. But humans never got that message. You kept using what worked, not what was fashionable. The Quinn navigator straightened. So we have a chance. A small one, Tay admitted. But yes, we have a chance. Slowly, the coalition representatives agreed to the plan. Some did so with confidence, others with resignation, but they all agreed. The fleet positioned itself near the Vantis Nebula and waited. Hana spent the time helping Mina coordinate the battle plan. Every ship had specific instructions, specific positions. Everything had to work perfectly, or they would all die. 2 days later, the Chromath arrived. Hana watched on the sensors as 300 Chromath warships dropped out of warp. They moved in perfect formation, beautiful and terrible. War Primus Krelthar's flagship was at the center, larger than any ship Hana had ever seen. "They are scanning us," Wu reported. "They know we are outnumbered." "Send the retreat signal," Tay ordered. "Make it look desperate." The coalition fleet turned and fled toward the nebula. The Chromath pursued, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They followed the humans directly into the radiation-soaked clouds. The trap closed. Human ships emerged from hiding positions throughout the nebula. Asteroids that seemed natural revealed themselves as concealed weapons platforms. Seok had spent weeks placing them, hiding them behind sensor-dampening fields. "All units weapons-free," Tay commanded. Hell erupted in space. Railgun rounds and missiles filled the nebula. The Chromath formation broke apart as ships tried to maneuver in the restricted space. Their sensors could not track properly through the radiation. Their shields flickered and failed under the onslaught. Yuna's fighter squadron screamed through the chaos, targeting Chromath engines and weapon systems. 3 Chromath dreadnoughts lost propulsion and tumbled helplessly into asteroid fields, but the Chromath adapted quickly. They began targeting the weapon platforms, destroying them one by one. Their numerical advantage started to tell. Coalition ships began to fall. "Hull breach on the Talvix cruiser," someone reported. "They are evacuating." Quinn's scout ship destroyed. "We have lost contact with Strike Team 3. The battle lasted hours. Hana watched ship after ship disappear from the tactical display. Friends she had made over the past months. Allies who had chosen to fight instead of hide. The Indomitable shook constantly from impacts. Seok reported fires in 3 sections. Medical Bay was overwhelmed with wounded, but the crew kept fighting. Jin led a boarding party onto a Chromath command carrier, fighting through corridors in brutal close combat. They destroyed the ship's command center, but Jin lost half her team doing it. Still, the Chromath kept coming. Krelthar's flagship pushed through the chaos, targeting the Indomitable directly. The War Primus wanted Tay dead personally. "Sir, we cannot take much more," Wu said. "Armor is failing." Tay's face was grim but determined. "Keep firing. We do not run." Hana stared at the tactical display, her mind racing. The Chromath flagship was massive and powerful, but it had taken damage earlier in the battle. She could see it on the sensors, a weak point in its hull where armor had been breached. The reactor. If someone could hit the reactor, the resulting explosion would destroy the flagship and disrupt the entire Chromath fleet. But it would require getting close. Very close. No pilot would survive the approach. Hana made her decision. She ran to the fighter bay. A damaged fighter sat there, barely functional. Hana had spent months aboard the Indomitable. She had watched the pilots. She had studied the controls during quiet moments. She could fly it. Probably. Hana climbed into the cockpit and powered up the systems. Alarms immediately screamed warnings. The fighter was not safe to fly. She did not care. She launched before anyone could stop her. The fighter handled poorly, damaged controls responding slowly. Hana pushed it toward the Chromath flagship, her entire body shaking with fear. Energy beams flashed past her. One hit caught the fighter's wing, sending her spinning. She corrected barely. The flagship loomed ahead, huge and impossible. Hana could see the breach in its hull, the exposed reactor glowing with power. "I am sorry, Father," she whispered. "I am sorry, Mother. But I am not hiding anymore." She set the fighter's autopilot and ejected, the seat launching her away from the ship. The damaged fighter continued on, flying directly into the reactor breach. The explosion was silent and terrible. The Chromath flagship tore itself apart, its reactor detonating with the force of a small star. The shockwave hit nearby Chromath ships, throwing them off course. Krelthar's ship was gone. The War Primus, who had conquered 40 species, was dead. The Chromath fleet hesitated. For the first time in recorded history, they were uncertain. Their leader was dead. Their formation was broken. They were losing. All ships, full attack. Tay ordered. Push them back! The coalition surged forward. The Chromath began to retreat, their perfect discipline cracking. A human shuttle found Hana floating in space, her suit's oxygen nearly depleted. They pulled her aboard, and Nari immediately began treating her for injuries. That was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid, Nari said, but she was smiling through tears. The battle ended with the Chromath in full retreat. It was the first time any species had forced them to withdraw, but the cost was devastating. 60% of the coalition fleet was destroyed. Thousands were dead. The Indomitable was scarred and burning, barely holding together. Hana stood on the bridge, wrapped in a medical blanket, and watched the surviving ships regroup. They had won, barely, but they had won. Tay approached her. You disobeyed orders. Stole a fighter. Nearly got yourself killed. Yes, Hana said quietly. Tay smiled. You fight like a human now. And somehow in that moment, surrounded by destruction and grief, Hana felt pride. News of the Chromath defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had lived in fear for years suddenly dared to hope. On occupied worlds, rebellions erupted. Slaves attacked their masters. Hidden resistance groups emerged from the shadows. The impossible had happened. The Chromath could be beaten, but aboard the Indomitable there was no celebration. The ship limped through space, its hull torn and scorched. Medical Bay was filled beyond capacity. The dead were given to space in solemn ceremonies that happened every day. Hana worked until she collapsed from exhaustion. She helped Siok repair damaged systems. She assisted Nari with the wounded. She coordinated with Mina to track Chromath fleet movements. There was too much work and too few hands. The coalition was shattered. Of the 20 ships that entered the battle, only 6 remained functional. Thousands of crew members were dead or wounded. They had won, but they had paid a terrible price. We cannot fight another battle like that, Jin said during a command meeting. Her arm was in a sling and burns covered the left side of her face. We do not have the ships or the people, Tay nodded tiredly. So we changed strategy. We do not fight another large battle. We teach others to fight instead. That became the new mission. The humans opened their knowledge to the entire coalition. They shared weapon designs, tactical manuals, and engineering specifications. Everything they had learned they gave away freely. The Talviks took human railgun designs and improved them. Their understanding of metallurgy allowed them to build weapons that were lighter and more powerful. The Quinn integrated their navigation abilities with human missile guidance systems, creating weapons that never missed their targets. Hana worked with Mina to establish an intelligence network. They recruited survivors from dozens of worlds, teaching them to gather information and communicate in secret. Within months, the coalition had eyes and ears throughout Chromath territory. Shipyards began operation on hidden worlds. The coalition built new vessels that combined the best of all species. They had Talvik's engineering, Quinn navigation, Valorian computing, and human weapons. Each ship was better than what any single species could build alone. But the Chromath were not finished. They still controlled vast territories. Their fleet still numbered in the thousands. The victory at Vantis had hurt them, but not killed them. 6 months after the battle, the Chromath High Command issued an ultimatum. They would gather every remaining ship and crush the coalition completely. No mercy, no survivors. They set a date for their final attack. Tay received the message and laughed. They are angry. Good. Angry enemies make mistakes. The coalition spent those months preparing. New ships launched every week. More species joined the alliance, bringing their own strengths. The small refugee fleet that had started with barely 20 ships grew into an armada. Hana barely recognized herself anymore. The frightened scientist who had hidden alone on a research station was gone. In her place was someone who could coordinate battle plans and make hard decisions. She had learned to be strong, the way humans were strong. One evening, she found Nari sitting alone in the medical bay, staring at nothing. Are you well? Hana asked. Nari smiled sadly. I was thinking about my grandmother. The teacher I told you about. She survived her war, but she never stopped having nightmares. She said violence marks you forever even when it is necessary. Nari looked at Hana. Do you have nightmares? Yes, Hana admitted. I see my homeworld burning. I see the ships we lost at Vantas, but I also see the people we saved. The worlds that are free because we fought. That is what my grandmother said too, Nari replied. She said the nightmares were the price of keeping others safe. A price worth paying. The date of the Chromath final assault arrived. The Coalition fleet gathered at the border of Chromath space. Not 20 ships this time, 2,000. Every vessel was crewed by survivors who had learned to fight back. Every weapon was aimed at an enemy that had taken everything from them. The Chromath came with their entire military might. Every fleet, every warrior, everything they had, thrown at the Coalition in one massive attack. Hana stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Indomitable, now serving as the Coalition flagship. Tay had been promoted to admiral, leading the entire Allied force. Around them, ships from 100 worlds waited for orders. They think we are still weak, Tay said calmly. They think we are afraid. Show them they are wrong. All ships attack. The two fleets crashed together like waves. The battle was massive, spreading across entire star systems. Yuna led 1,000 fighters against Chromath carriers. Jin commanded boarding teams that captured enemy vessels. Silk coordinated the engineering crews that kept damaged ships fighting. But this time was different. The Coalition was not desperate refugees anymore. They were an organized military force. They had numbers. They had weapons. They had learned from their losses. The Chromath fought with everything they had. They were brave and skilled and determined, but it was not enough. The galaxy had learned the lessons humans taught. Kinetic weapons tore through Chromath armor. Coordinated attacks overwhelmed their defenses. Species that had been victims became warriors. Hana watched from the command center as the tide of battle shifted. Chromath ships began to retreat, then surrender. The empire that had conquered half the galaxy was collapsing. The final breakthrough came when Yuna's squadron destroyed the Chromath High Command bunker on their throne world. With their leadership gone, the remaining Chromath forces surrendered within days. It was over. The war that had consumed the galaxy for years ended not with a grand speech, but with exhausted warriors sitting in damaged ships, trying to believe they had survived. Hana stood in the observation deck, watching Coalition ships patrol the space where the Chromath Empire once ruled. Tay joined her, looking older than when they first met, but somehow more peaceful. What will you do now? He asked. I am establishing a new Valorian archive, Hana said. Someone needs to record what happened here, so future generations understand the cost of freedom, and remember that it is worth fighting for, Tay added. 5 years passed. The Chromath remnants were absorbed into a reformed Galactic Council. Some became allies. Others just wanted to rebuild their own worlds in peace. The galaxy was changing, learning from both war and peace. Hana became the Coalition's chief historian. She traveled to hundreds of worlds, recording stories of survival and resistance. She documented the war so no one would forget what happened when evil went unchallenged. One day she returned to the research station where her journey began. It was now a memorial, preserved exactly as it had been. She walked through the empty corridors, remembering the frightened person she had been. In the observation room, she activated her old journal and made a final entry. We were alone among the stars, scattered and afraid. Then humans came in fire and steel and taught us that we were never meant to face darkness alone. They showed us that survival is not enough. You must be willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. She closed the journal and looked out at the stars. A patrol ship passed by, its hull showing both human and alien design elements. Inside that ship, humans and aliens worked together, protecting the peace they had all fought to win. Hana whispered to herself, "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for teaching me to fight." She left the station and returned to her work. There were more stories to record, more histories to preserve. The war was over, but the work of remembering continued, and across the galaxy no one was alone anymore.